The diplomatic chamber smelled wrong to Marcus Webb. After 3 months aboard the collective station, he still couldn't place it. Something like copper mixed with ozone, with an underlying sweetness that made his sinuses ache. He adjusted his collar and waited. Across the curved table sat Ambassador Tilrex, a Vorane whose 6 eyes blinked in sequence, never all at once. The Vorane had been the first species to make contact with Earth, arriving 6 months ago with what they called an invitation to join civilized space. Behind Tilrex stood 2 advisors, their translator devices humming softly. "Your application has been processed," Tilrex said. The translator gave his words a flat, emotionless quality. "Earth is granted provisional member status in the Galactic Collective. Category 7. Marcus nodded, keeping his expression neutral. He'd learned that much. Show no surprise. Show no weakness. What does Category 7 entail? Limited trade rights. No voting privileges. No access to collective databases beyond basic navigation charts. No military treaties." Tilrex's middle eyes focused on Marcus while the others scanned the room. Standard for primitive species. There it was again. Primitive. They'd used that word in every meeting. Marcus had stopped correcting them after the first week. "We appreciate the collective's consideration," Marcus said carefully. "When can we expect the technology sharing agreements we discussed?" One of the advisors made a sound like grinding gravel. Tilrex's translator didn't bother converting it, which Marcus had learned meant it was probably laughter. "Humans misunderstand," Tilrex said. "Category 7 species receive nothing. You give tribute. You follow collective law and collective space. In return, we do not restrict your primitive vessels from using the approved trade lanes." Marcus felt heat rise in his chest, but he kept his voice level. "I see. And what would it take to achieve a higher category?" "Demonstrate value," Tilrex said simply. "Develop something the collective needs. Prove you are more than primitives with stolen fire." The meeting ended 10 minutes later. Marcus walked through the station's main corridor, past species he still couldn't name. Some towered 3 meters tall. Others skittered on too many legs. A few seemed to exist partly in dimensions he couldn't quite see, their edges blurring in ways that hurt to look at. None of them looked at him. He reached the human quarters and found Dr. Sarah Chen waiting in the common area, her tablet covered in notes. "How bad?" she asked. "Category 7. No tech sharing. No database access. They basically patted us on the head and told us to stay out of the way." Sarah swore softly in Mandarin. 3 months of negotiation for nothing. "Not nothing," Marcus said, sitting down heavily. "We learned something important." "What's that?" "They genuinely don't care about us. We're not a threat. We're not interesting. We're just there." He stared at the wall, which displayed a rotating view of Earth from the station's external cameras. "They have faster-than-light travel, energy-to-matter conversion, artificial gravity, and technology we don't have words for yet. And they look at us like we're insects. So what do we do?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Outside the viewport, a massive cargo vessel drifted past, kilometers long, its hull covered in symbols from a dozen different species. Earth's largest spaceship could fit in one of its cargo bays. "We proved them wrong," he said finally. "They said develop something they need. So that's what we do." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Marcus, they have technology that's thousands of years ahead of us. What could we possibly develop that they'd need?" "I don't know yet," Marcus admitted. "But I know humans. We're stubborn. We're creative. And we're really, really good at solving problems no one thought were solvable." He stood up, energy returning to his movements. "Get me everything we observed about this station. Every species, every technology, every interaction. There's something we're missing. That's going to be a lot of data. Then we better get started." Sarah looked at him for a moment, then smiled. "You know they're going to think we're crazy." "Let them think what they want," Marcus said. "We didn't claw our way up from caves to the stars just to be someone's footnote." Over the next weeks, Marcus and Sarah worked quietly. They cataloged everything. The way the Vorane advisors always stood in specific positions. The trade languages used in the market districts. The species that avoided each other. The technologies that seemed common and those that appeared rare. They noticed something interesting. For all their advanced technology, the collective species didn't innovate. They used the same tools, the same ships, the same methods they'd apparently used for centuries. Everything was standardized, optimized, efficient, and completely stagnant. "They stopped asking questions," Sarah said one night, surrounded by holographic displays of data. "Look at this. The collective's technological database hasn't had a major addition in over 400 years. Minor refinements, yes. But nothing truly new. Marcus leaned forward. Why? I think they forgot how, Sarah said slowly. Or maybe they never knew. Look at the collective's history. It wasn't founded by explorers or inventors. It was founded by traders and bureaucrats. Every species that joins brings their existing technology. The collective catalogs it, optimizes it, and that's it. They're not creators. They're curators. And they think we're the primitive ones, Marcus said, a smile growing on his face. So what do we do with this? Marcus thought about Earth, about the scientists and engineers and dreamers who would never accept impossible as an answer. About the students who asked questions their professors couldn't answer. About the garage inventors and the corporate labs and the university research teams, all pushing in different directions, all trying things that might not work. We do what humans do best, he said. We make something completely new. The message from Earth arrived 3 weeks later, compressed into a data packet that took 6 hours to decode. Marcus read it twice, then called Sarah to his quarters. Command approved the project, he said, unable to keep the excitement from his voice. Full support. They're sending the team up on the next transport. Sarah's eyes widened. They actually agreed? To all of it? Every word. Marcus pulled up the response on his screen. Director Martinez said, and I quote, "If the galaxy thinks we're primitive, let's show them what primitive ingenuity looks like." They're dedicating 2 research stations and pulling scientists from every major institution on Earth. What did you tell them we were building? I didn't specify, Marcus admitted. I told them we needed to solve a problem the collective hasn't solved. Something that requires thinking differently. Sarah sat down, pulling up her own notes. I've been analyzing the station's systems. There's something I want to show you. She expanded a holographic schematic of the station's power distribution network. Red lines pulsed through a 3-dimensional maze of conduits and nodes. This station houses about 40,000 beings from 200 species, Sarah explained. It has artificial gravity, life support for hundreds of different atmospheric requirements, faster-than-light communication arrays, and it's been running for over 3 centuries. Okay. It should be impossible. The power requirements alone should need a fusion reactor the size of a moon. But look at this. She zoomed in on a section near the station's core. The main reactor is barely larger than a city block. And it's not fusion. It's not antimatter. It's something else entirely. Marcus studied the readings. 0-point energy? That's what I thought at first. But the efficiency is wrong. They're pulling energy from somewhere, but there's waste heat. A lot of it. The station has to vent thermal radiation constantly. Sarah pulled up another display. Here's the strange part. The amount of waste heat doesn't match the power output. It's like they're only capturing a fraction of what's available. How much of a fraction? Best estimate? About 12%. Marcus whistled softly. 88% waste. That's not just inefficient, that's primitive. Sarah finished. Yeah. For all their advanced technology, their power generation is barely better than a coal plant from the Industrial Revolution, just on a much larger scale. Have you mentioned this to anyone? I tried asking Ambassador Tilrex about the station's power systems. He said it was proprietary collective technology and not available to Category 7 species. Sarah closed the displays. But here's the thing, Marcus. I don't think it's proprietary. I think it's just old. Ancient, actually. And I think they don't understand it well enough to improve it. Marcus paced the small room, his mind racing. If we could improve their power efficiency, we'd have something they need, Sarah said. Something valuable enough that they'd have to take us seriously. Can we do it? Actually do it? Sarah was quiet for a moment. I don't know. We don't even know what kind of energy they're tapping. But Marcus, humans invented the steam engine and went from that to nuclear reactors in less than 2 centuries. We went from the first airplane to landing on the moon in 66 years. We don't give up on problems. We obsess over them. Then we obsess over this one, Marcus said firmly. When's the next transport? 4 days. Good. I need you to compile everything you have on their power systems. Every scan, every observation, every data point. When that team arrives, I want them to hit the ground running. The transport arrived on schedule, a human-built vessel that looked crude next to the sleek collective ships but had been built with human hands and human ingenuity. It carried 12 people, physicists, engineers, materials scientists, and one person Marcus hadn't expected. Dr. James Okafor stepped off the transport with a broad smile and a battered briefcase. He was 73 years old, had 3 Nobel Prizes to his name, and had personally told the UN Security Council that quantum mechanics was just getting interesting 2 decades ago. Ambassador Webb, Okafor said, shaking Marcus's hand with surprising strength. They told me you needed someone to solve an impossible problem. Sounded too interesting to refuse. Dr. Okafor, I didn't think they'd send you personally. You asked for the best. I'm the best. He said it without arrogance, just stating a fact. Now, show me what has the mighty galactic collective stumped. Over the next week, the human team set up in the quarters Marcus had secured. The space was small, barely enough for 12 people to work comfortably, but no one complained. They filled every surface with equipment, displays, and the kind of organized chaos that Marcus recognized from university laboratories back on Earth. Dr. Okafor stood at the center of it all, asking questions that made the other scientists scramble to recalculate their assumptions. You're telling me, Okafor said, studying Sarah's data, that they're venting 88% of their captured energy as waste heat? That's our best estimate, Sarah confirmed. And they've been doing this for centuries? At least, possibly millennia. Okafor started to laugh. It was a deep, genuine laugh that filled the room. Oh, this is beautiful. This is absolutely beautiful. Sir? One of the younger physicists asked. Don't you see? Okafor gestured at the displays. They built something incredible. Something that taps into energy sources we're only beginning to understand. And then they stopped. They achieved something amazing and just maintained it. Like building a bicycle and never wondering if you could make a motorcycle. Can we make the motorcycle? Marcus asked. Okafor's smile widened. Ambassador, we're going to make a spaceship. But first, we need to understand what we're working with. Dr. Chin, I need detailed scans of their reactor core. Not just the energy signatures but the spatial distortions around it. If they're tapping what I think they're tapping, there should be measurable effects on local spacetime. The collective won't let us anywhere near their reactor, Sarah pointed out. Then we don't ask permission, Okafor said simply. We observe from here. Humans are very good at learning things we're not supposed to know. The team worked around the clock, sleeping in shifts. They built sensors from spare parts and repurposed communication equipment. They measured energy signatures, gravitational fluctuations, and quantum field variations. They collected data the collective had never thought to look for because the collective had stopped asking questions. 2 weeks into the project, Dr. Okafor called everyone together. I know what they're doing, he announced. And I know how to make it better. He pulled up a display showing the station's reactor core, surrounded by mathematical equations that made even the other physicists squint. They're creating controlled microtears in spacetime, Okafor explained. Tiny fractures in reality itself, tapping into the quantum foam that underlies our universe. It's brilliant. It's elegant. And it's incredibly inefficient because they're only accessing one quantum state at a time. Can we access multiple states? One engineer asked. We can do better than that, Okafor said. We can create a resonance cascade. Instead of tearing one hole and catching whatever energy leaks through, we create a standing wave pattern across multiple quantum states simultaneously. In theory, we could increase efficiency from 12% to somewhere around 70 or 80%. The room went silent. That's... Sarah started. A 7-fold improvement over technology they've relied on for centuries, Marcus finished. Dr. Okafor, how certain are you? The math works. The physics works. Whether we can build it. Okafor shrugged. Only one way to find out. How long? To build a working prototype? 3 months, maybe 4. Assuming we can get the materials we need. Marcus looked around the room at the exhausted, excited faces of his team. Humans who had traveled across space to solve a problem no one had asked them to solve. Who were willing to work impossible hours on a theory that might not work. Who refused to accept that being primitive meant being inferior. Then let's get started, Marcus said. We're going to show the collective what humans can do. The materials were the first problem. Dr. Okafor's design required components that didn't exist in any human inventory. Superconducting metamaterials with quantum-entangled lattice structures. Crystalline matrices that could maintain coherence across multiple dimensional states. Fabrication equipment precise enough to manipulate matter at the Planck scale. We need access to the collective's manufacturing facilities, Sarah said, reviewing the requirements list. There's no way around it. Marcus shook his head. They won't grant us access. Category 7 species don't get manufacturing privileges. Then we buy what we need, suggested Dr. Lisa Park, one of the materials scientists. The station has markets, right? Surely someone sells advanced materials. With what money? Another team member asked. Earth's currency is worthless here. Marcus had been thinking about this problem for days. The collective used a credit system based on resource contribution and technological value. Earth had neither in quantities that mattered. But they had something else. We trade what we have, he said slowly. Information. Okafor raised an eyebrow. We barely understand their technology. What could we possibly tell them? Not their technology. Ours. Marcus pulled up Earth's cultural database. Music, art, literature, entertainment. 300,000 years of human creativity. The collective might not value our technology, but they've never encountered our culture. Sarah frowned. You want to sell Earth's cultural heritage? I want to share it, Marcus corrected. We're not losing anything by letting them experience human music or read human books. And if they're willing to pay for access. He shrugged. The galaxy runs on trade. Let's see if culture trades. The first attempt was a disaster. Marcus approached a Thelonian merchant in one of the station's market sectors, offering access to Earth's classical music archives. The merchant, a being that looked like a crystalline spider the size of a dog, listened to 30 seconds of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony before making a sound like shattering glass and skittering away. The second attempt went better. A Corvashi trader, reptilian and business-minded, listened to Marcus's pitch with 3 of its 4 eyes. Entertainment data? From a Category 7 species. Completely unique, Marcus said. Nothing like it exists in the collective databases. We're offering exclusive access. Demonstrate. Marcus played a clip from an old Earth movie. A thriller, something with suspense and drama. The Corvashi watched in silence, its tail twitching slightly. Interesting, it said after the clip ended. Your species experiences temporal narrative in unusual ways. The emotional manipulation is crude but novel. It tilted its head. What do you want in exchange? Materials. Fabrication time. Manufacturing access. Show me the list. The Corvashi studied Marcus's requirements for a long moment. This would normally cost 4,000 standard credits. You are Category 7. You have no credits. But we have something you don't, Marcus countered. Thousands of hours of unique content. Stories, music, visual art, interactive experiences. All human created. All original. And you offer this in exchange for materials? Exclusive access for 1 full cycle, Marcus said. You can analyze it, enjoy it, resell it to other species. We just need the materials and fabrication support. The Corvashi's eyes gleamed. You do not understand the value of what you offer. Marcus's heart sank. He'd miscalculated. Asked for too little, revealed too much. Your cultural database, the Corvashi continued, represents 300,000 years of creative development from a completely isolated species. Novel narrative structures. Unique aesthetic frameworks. Emotional patterns we have never catalogued. It leaned forward. The anthropological value alone would justify your material costs. The entertainment value could be substantial. I accept your terms. Marcus tried not to show his surprise. Excellent. When can we? I want twice the access period. 2 full cycles. And I want exclusive resale rights in this sector. They negotiated for another hour, but in the end, Marcus got what he needed. Materials, fabrication time, and access to manufacturing equipment sophisticated enough to build Okafor's prototype. All in exchange for Earth's movies, music, books, and art. As Marcus left the market sector, he realized the Corvashi had been right. He hadn't understood the value of what he was trading. Earth's culture was worth more than he'd imagined. The collective had technology, efficiency, and optimization. But somewhere along the way they'd forgotten how to create something just because it was beautiful or moving or made you think. Humans had never forgotten that. The fabrication process took 7 weeks. The human team worked alongside automated systems in the manufacturing facility, learning as they built. The collective's machines were incredibly precise, but they required exact specifications. There was no room for improvisation, no tolerance for creative problem-solving. Everything has to be perfect before they start, Dr. Park complained one day, frustrated after the system rejected her design for the 3rd time. They can't adapt on the fly. That's because they don't think like we do, Okafor said, reviewing the latest rejection. Look at this error message. Design parameters exceed standard tolerance. It's not saying the design won't work. It's saying the design is different from what's expected. So how do we fix it? We don't fix it. We convince the system that different is acceptable. Okafor started modifying the input parameters, adding buffer zones and adjustment ranges that gave the machines permission to deviate from standard protocols. There. Try it now. The system accepted the design. As the weeks passed, word spread through the station about what the humans were doing. Other species started visiting the market sector where the Corvashi was offering access to Earth's cultural database. Marcus heard reports of Vorane watching human comedies, trying to understand the concept of sarcasm. Of Thelonians analyzing human music theory. Of a dozen different species arguing about the meaning of abstract art. Ambassador Tilrex summoned Marcus to his office. "You have been trading cultural data," Tilrex said without preamble. "Yes. It's not prohibited under Category 7 restrictions." "It is not." Tilrex's middle eyes focused on Marcus. "It is, however, unusual. Category 7 species typically trade raw materials or basic labor. Cultural exports suggest a level of development beyond your assigned category." Marcus kept his expression neutral. "Are you saying Earth should be reclassified?" "I am saying the collective is discussing the matter." Tilrex's translator gave the words a careful emphasis. "What are you building with the materials you acquired?" "A research project. An experiment in power generation efficiency. The collective's power generation is already optimally efficient." "With respect, Ambassador, our analysis suggests otherwise." The room went very quiet. One of Tilrex's advisors made that grinding sound again, but this time it didn't sound like laughter. "You question collective technology?" Tilrex asked slowly. "We observe it," Marcus said carefully. "And we believe we can improve it." "Impossible. Our power generation systems have been refined over thousands of years by hundreds of species. They represent the pinnacle of available technology." Marcus made a decision. "Would you like to see our prototype?" Tilrex's eyes all blinked at once, which Marcus had learned meant surprise. "Your prototype? We're about 2 weeks from a working demonstration. If we're wrong, you can use it as evidence that humans are indeed primitive and deserve our Category 7 status." "If we're right." Marcus let the sentence hang. "If you are right," Tilrex said quietly, "many things would change." "Yes," Marcus agreed. "They would." Back in the human quarters, the team was making final adjustments to the prototype. It sat in the center of the main workspace, about the size of a refrigerator, covered in precisely machined components and pulsing with barely contained energy. "How's it looking?" Marcus asked. Okafor stood back, wiping his hands on a cloth. "The math says it should work. The simulations say it should work. Whether reality agrees." He shrugged. "We'll know soon enough. Tilrex wants to see a demonstration." The room went quiet. "When?" Sarah asked. 2 weeks. "We'll be ready," Okafor said confidently. "Question is the collective ready for what we're about to show them?" Marcus looked at the prototype, at this machine built by human hands using human ingenuity to solve a problem the galaxy's greatest civilization had stopped trying to solve. "I guess we'll find out," he said. The next 2 weeks were a blur of final adjustments, safety checks, and testing. The team ran simulation after simulation, refining the quantum resonance patterns, optimizing the dimensional cascade sequences, and triple-checking every calculation. On the day before the demonstration, Marcus found Dr. Okafor alone in the workspace, staring at the prototype. "Having doubts?" Marcus asked. "The opposite," Okafor said. "I'm certain it will work. What I'm uncertain about is what happens afterward." He turned to face Marcus. "We're about to prove that a Category 7 species, primitives with barely a century of spaceflight, can improve upon technology the collective has relied on for millennia. That's going to upset a lot of assumptions." "Good," Marcus said. "Assumptions should be questioned. That's how progress happens." "The collective stopped questioning things a long time ago," Okafor observed. "They're going to resist. Even if we prove it works, even if we show them something incredible, there will be those who refuse to accept it simply because it came from us." "Then we make it impossible to refuse," Marcus said. "We don't just show them improvement. We show them revolution. We remind them what it means to reach for something greater." Okafor smiled. "You know, when I got the message asking me to join this project, I thought it was about building a better battery. But it's not, is it?" "No," Marcus agreed. "It's about showing the galaxy that humanity belongs here. Not as primitives begging for scraps, but as equals who can contribute something meaningful." "Well then," Okafor said, turning back to the prototype. Let's make sure this thing works perfectly. We're only going to get one shot at this. The demonstration was scheduled for the next day in one of the station's formal presentation chambers. Marcus had no idea who would attend, but he suspected it